Hey guys, welcome back. After the last track trip, I started trying to figure out how to lower my 60 foot. I see what other people are doing in Mustangs. You know, there's guys going. I saw a guy. I mean, he had full on race suspension, but he went a 1.0, and that was freaking crazy. Uh, but I think realistically, I can get down to the 1.5, 1.4s with my horsepower levels that I'm starting to put down, if not a little bit better. But definitely, realistically, with my knowledge and my skill set, I think I can get 1.5 to 1.4s, which is 2/10 to 3/10 off. So that should be a pretty big. And actually, if I did a 1.5, that would be 4/10 off my best ET time that I ran. But anyway, so I started doing some watching on YouTube and reading some old Yellow Bullet forums and figuring out what I wanted to do to try to get my instant center. I measured my instant center and anti-squat line, and on my anti-squat, I was at about 53, and it was way out in front of the car. It was low and long, which is good for a chassis car from what I've learned, but not good for a stock chassis car. So after reading a bunch and stuff and seeing things and watching what other people did, I considered buying some brackets. And I figured, man, I can measure those out and make those myself with scrap metal that I had laying around. So that's what I did. So I'm going to show you how I went about that. I don't know if it's the right way, but everything measures up. Everything's still square at this point where I figured out. And so that turned out pretty good. But it also brought on a whole other bunch of problems. Well, not other problems, just one big problem. And we'll talk about that here in a minute, or after I show you what I did and where it brought us. And so let's get into the work, and then we'll talk about where that brought us.
Okay, so all I did was cut out, do a cardboard tracing of that angle and everything, transferred it to metal, and then that'll weld up there. A little bit thicker than what I needed, but it was just scrap I had around. So we'll go ahead and weld that up there, and then I'll show you the next part that we do. You guys can see there, we got the extensions welded on, got some doublers made. Made those together, and they're the 3 holes are in a row are 1 inch apart, and then the other 2 are a half inch, and they're set back a ½ inch, and that will be the doubler, and that will go, let's see here, right over that, I don't, like that, and that'll get welded in there. We'll have to grind this weld back a little bit, make it sit flat. And that will be our drop brackets, and then we'll box it in back here like we did the other one. How I make sure everything's lined up, I measured from this bolt up to the mounting bolt for the lower control arm. I did that on both sides. It's 17¼ to the center, so we knew it's still squared up. And then so on the other side, I took a few different measurements from like here and back here and all these holes, and made sure. So then I drilled this one. Now, to make the other one, you can see a dot over there. What I do is I take the control arm. It's going to slip. I take the control arm. I put the control arm up after I drill this hole. Put that through there, and then I take a marker and stick it through. And that's how I mark it on the other side. As you can see, the mark on the other side there. That way, I know they're lined up. And once those are lined up, I actually measure on the inside how far it is from the bottom and how far it is from the front here, and I mark it over here on this side, and then I drill it from this side because I don't have any bits that long that are sharp that do it over. So that's how I just transfer it over, make these work, and then do these 2. I'm just doing these 2 because this one doesn't give me a number that I want, but I went ahead and drilled it just in case I ever go back to slicks at some point and need a little less instant center.
There we got it. It's all done. Got the things welded up, 3/8, or not 3/8, well, it's about 3/8. It's a 1/4 inch plate here with an 1/8 doubler. Did a reinforcement of the top, bolted it in, make it a little more rigid. And then we reinforced the back. Move that around, the lighting. See, we put a plate back here, 1/4 inch plate, make it rigid at the back. And that is it. So we'll go on to the next thing. We'll put some wheels and tires back on it, see how the fitment is. All right, guys. So now that we got those drop brackets all in, I had bought some longer springs I found that the Moroso Trick drag springs are longer. Everything I see, people say they make the car sit up 2 or 3 inches higher in the back. So I found them on the market book place for like $45. I got a good smoking deal on them. So I figured that would be good and I wouldn't have to move my mounting bracket up at all. But it's lowered the car quite a bit, but the wheel sticks out a little bit. And what I figured out is I have SN, and I did it, I have SN95 axles and brake spacing on it instead of the Fox thing. So it kicks the wheel out 3/4 of an inch. And I had posted, I had looked at maybe changing the wheels and doing an offset on the wheels and bringing it in because there's about 1 3/4 space on the inside. But I just couldn't find wheels, reasonably priced wheels that would do it. So after reading, I found a way where people take the mounting bracket on the axle, flip it to the inside, and it moves and use some stock Fox body axles, and it moves the axle in like 3/4 of an inch, which I think is going to give me quite a bit of space. We're going to do a little test fit right here real quick. I'm going to pull all the brakes off, and that should move the wheel in about 1/2 inch and see where that goes and see how that feels. So let's do that real quick, and I'll bring you back when that's done. All right, guys, so pulled the rotor off. I thought it was going to be 1/2 inch. It was only 1/4 inch. But give us an idea of where we're at on that. And it's still too close to run it like that. But we got another 1/2 inch to go in, which should move it in quite a bit. So I'm hoping that's going to do the trick. That 3/4 of an inch, I think, is going to be it. So that's where we're at. So waiting on parts to show up. So that's going to be it for this video. And when the new parts show up, we'll show you how to do the brakes, the axles, and do the brakes to the inside and do that. So that's where we're at. We're waiting on parts. Hopefully we can get everything done and we make it to the track one more time and see if all this work was actually worth it. All right, guys. See you next time. There's Facebook, Instagrams, all that stuff. Later.